This is English Language Arts Review for Grade 7 at ISI, Weeks 1 and 2, Final Term.
Topics covered: reading activity, river rising and a Katrina story, writing after reading the cyclone, grammar, verbals, and verbal phrases.
Exterior of a modest square copper's cabin on an isolated farm in Arkansas during the devastating Mississippi River flood of 1927. A teenage boy is sitting on the cabin steps, briskly entering from stage left.
Quick, Henry, leave the mules up to the rise in the pasture.
Why, Mom? It ain't going to flood. It ain't even raining out.
There's a flood coming. I can feel it.
Looking upward.
Have you seen the birds? They've been flocking toward the forest all day. It's still raining upriver. I can see from the clouds. The Mississippi is sure to overflow.
But the mayor said the levee would hold. He said the government engineers told him that there's never been a safer time to live near the Mississippi. The levees along the river are higher than the highest point the water reached during the last flood.
I don't care what the government experts say. I know what Grandma told me about the last bad flood. And it was just like this. Look, there's your car.
Tucson.
How are things in town?
Entering from stage right, holding a large bag.
People are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. I was lucky to get this bag of cornmeal from the store. The shelves are practically empty, and strange things are happening. As I was walking home, I looked up at the levee, and a steamboat was going by. It was pushing a barge overflowing with folks, and both the steamboat and the barge looked to be sailing along with midair. The river is right up to the banks of the levee, and those boats look like they could skate right over the edge.
More worried now.
The river's that high?
Yep. Now, Henry, help me out in the chicken coop. We need to make a scaffold for the chickens to roost on, or we'll have chicken soup before this weather is over.
What about the hogs?
Pull over in River Landing built a scaffold for his hogs. That's next on my list. We'll have to take down some fence rails to build it.
A car is heard approaching.
Who's that coming?
It's Will. What's the news? Well,
hello from stage right.
Hello, do you folks want the good news or the bad news?
With a smile.
Oh, the good news, please.
There's a rupture in the levee about 30 miles upriver.
Shock.
But that's awful. That's not good news.
You're right, it's bad news for the people on the east bank. But the break is revealing pressure on our side of the river, at least for now.
Oh, but those poor people in Greenville.
I know, it looks bad. Refugees are already swarming over the levee. It's the only high ground for miles.
But how? I thought the levee collapsed.
Only part of it, enough to swamp all that low-lying farmland.
Suddenly there is a sound like a roar heard as if from far away. The sound of cows lowing, roosters crowing, and dogs barking can be heard. Alarm.
What was that?
It sounds like it came from the north. The river must have overflowed the levee. This whole area is about to bound to flood.
How long do you reckon we have?
A few hours maybe. You better move everything you can up off the ground, as high as you can, and get some blankets and such up onto the roof.
Why would we need blankets on the roof?
In case your cavern floods, and that's the only place left that isn't on the roof.
Fearfully.
Will that happen?
Firmly.
We hope not, but we want to be prepared if it does. Pray for the best, plan for the worst, now see to those moves.
Okay, I'm going.
He leaves. In a hurry now.
I've got to go too. Got to get home before the water gets there.
Boy, Will, we sure appreciate you coming out to warn us about the levies. Good luck to you.
Will exits and we hear a car starting. To herself.
Oh my, I better see what I can put up high, away from the wall.
Wait, Louis, I've been thinking. If this flood is as bad as the last one, we won't get our crop in this year. Then there won't be a dime coming in. We can't stay here another year without stock crop money. Only thing to do is leave the farm and head north.
Leave? But Mr. Pike will be angry if we go. If no one farms his land, he won't have any rent coming in.
Just let him try to stop us. We paid quite our rent and paid back the money we had to borrow for seeds.
He continues as she looks doubtful.
Don't you see it? Even without another flood, sharecropping will never let us get ahead. Now, a lot of the other sharecroppers are going to Chicago. I say we join them. After the flood, when the road is passable again, we'll sell our livestock in town. Then we'll catch the train from line back to Chicago.
Convinced.
I have always wanted to see Chicago. All right, first we'll get through this flood and then we'll go to Chicago.
Now I'll read a Katrina story and then we'll answer the questions that correlate to both texts. A Katrina story. When the rain ceased, Isaac sat erect on the porch, watchful. His sharp eyes scanned the street for any sign of his friend, but no one stirred in the eerie quiet that now enveloped the neighborhood. It was dark, but the full moon illuminated ripples of water lapping at the bottom step of the porch. This was alarming. During the height of the rainstorm, the water had rushed through the street, but it hadn't risen this high. He didn't much like the smell of the water that was flooding the street. Still, there had been nothing to drink for hours. He licked his lips. He sensed a presence nearby. Turning his head sharply, he saw the next-door neighbor sitting on the porch railing. How did she do that? Her stealthy way of moving about the neighborhood had always irritated him. He prided himself on keeping on top of all of the comings and goings of the neighborhood, the residents and their routines, but her, he never knew where she would turn up. He harumphed, settling back into his vigilant posture. Glistening ripples moved down the street in the dark. Isaac could just make out the heads of two snakes raised like ships' prows as they cut smoothly through the water. His neighbor sidled up and sat down about 5 feet away from him. He followed her eyes as she examined the leash, which ran from a collar around his neck to the door handle. Isaac knew his job was to stay put until his friend came home, unlock the door, and push down on the lever-type door handle. Then, the leash would slip off the handle. The door would open, and Isaac would trot inside after his friend. But his friend hadn't come home last night, or today, or this evening. His neighbor leaped onto the windowsill next to the door. She reached out a delicate paw and batted at the door handle. Isaac watched, disgusted. What was she playing at? She extended her body to its full length and pressed down on the door handle, twitching her tail for counterbalance. The handle turned with a click. The leash slipped off, the door swung open, and his neighbor sauntered inside. After recovering from his astonishment, Isaac scrambled to his feet and trotted after her. Together, they made a thorough survey of the kitchen, but Isaac's friend had never left out any food or dirty dishes. He led the way to the bathroom, where both animals quenched their thirst on the water in the bathtub, which Isaac's friend had filled and left undrained several days ago. Then, in the living room, Isaac sat down heavily on his bed and rested his tired head on his paws. His neighbor, however, went back to the front door, paused, turned to Isaac, and meowed sharply. Now that he was lying down on his comfortable bed, Isaac didn't want to get up, but the cat would not stop pestering him. She bounded up to him, rubbing against his head until he wearily rose and followed her out the door. Now the water was up to the level of the porch. The cat meowed more insistently. Isaac looked up the street toward the shops where his friend got food. There were no lights on there now, but Isaac didn't see an alternative. Reluctantly, he waded into the water and started paddling with his webbed paws. The cat stayed back and howled. Isaac turned about in a wide arch and made his back to the porch. The cat was pacing up and down the length of the porch railing. He leaned the length of his body against the railing, wagging his tail, and barked at the cat. After a long moment, she crawled onto him, hanging her forelegs over his shoulders. He whimpered as she dug her back claws into his haunches. Then, gingerly, he stepped back into the water and paddled off. When they reached the small row of stores, it was clearer than ever to Isaac the normal order of things was badly askew. The street was deserted and water was up to the windows, many of which were broken. He stuck his snout through the window of the deli and inhaled an intoxicating aroma of old meat and swamp. The cat shot off his back through the window and onto the deli counter. Isaac clambered over the windowsill, amazed at his companion's grace. A red exit light glimmered inside the store, revealing that the shelves, half submerged in black water, were empty. But the meaty smell was strong. Isaac followed his nose behind the deli counter. There, wedged onto the tray of a meat slicer, was a large loaf of bologna. Isaac tried to grasp the meat in his jaws, but he was missing most of his teeth, and he couldn't brace his paws as he treaded water. Meanwhile, the cat had come over to investigate. Her head disappeared under the gleaming slicer blade, and soon she began to wiggle backwards, pulling on a piece of deli paper with her teeth. The paper was covered with a generous pile of sliced meat. At that moment, the pointy snout of a rat torpedoed toward them through the murky water. Isaac, who had just heaved himself with great difficulty onto the counter, lunged at the rodent, but he slipped on the wet stainless steel countertop and skidded back into the water. He comprehended that in an instant the rat would snatch the deli paper, bologna and all, and pull it under water. Treading water again, he snapped at the rodent uselessly with his toothless jaws. As the rat clamped its razor-sharp fangs onto the paper, the cat clamped her own teeth onto the rat's neck. With an incensed squeal, the rat let go of the paper and shot back into the water. As Isaac once again heaved himself onto the counter, the cat waited casually, cleaning rat fur off her whiskers. Let's answer item 1, part A. Go ahead, Tala.
How does the setting of River Rising shape the drama's conflict? It's B. The flooding river creates a conflict between the farmers and the nation.
Correct. And which? For part B, go ahead and read it, Alian.
What text does not support the answer to part A? C. Even without another flood, sharecropping will never let us get ahead.
Excellent. Item 2, who can read?
Me.
Go ahead, Muhammad.
Which of the following sentences best state the key theme of river rising? Natural disasters can break up fortunes as well as suffering.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have a different answer?
No.
Could it be D?
I have D.
So if you say D, you're bringing out the worst in human nature.
No.
Is it the worst? Remember the dog and cat became friends.
No.
Remember that? Now the rat wasn't friendly with the cat, but there wasn't really it's not the worst because usually cats do attack rats. And opportunities, for example, what was the opportunity that you saw in the first text?
It was going to Chicago.
Yes, very good, excellent. So that's an opportunity. They're moving to Chicago to make a new life. Excellent. So which evidence supports the answer to part A and part B? No one comes to warn Sam and Lois about the break in the levees? That's not true.
The flood makes them
Building scaffolding for the for the chickens and pigs can't save them from the flood. Okay. Some parts of the levee may have broken, but Sam and Lois's farm will be protected. Is that true? That's not true. The flood makes Sam realize that the family would be better off moving to Chicago. And he did say this. D is the best answer.
Yes.
I underlined B because we could have used B, but you have to reread and see the other answers as well. B could have been the answer, but the better answer is D.
Yes.
So B is no longer correct. Okay. Part A, item 3. Go ahead, Joel.
What does the word rupture mean in river rising? It's C, a crack or break.
Breach. Very good. Excellent. And which context clues in the text support your answer to part A? Yes?
C, refugees are already swarming over the levee.
Does anyone have a different answer? Lua?
A, the break is used as relieving pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote it.
On our side of the river, does it make sense here if I use our side of the river? It's the only high ground for miles. Okay. So refugees are already swarming over the levee. Does that mean people are trying to get over to the other side? Okay. And the break is relieving pressure. Could also be the answer. So, which is the best answer here? A is the correct answer. Okay, item 4. Who would like to answer? Yes, Muhammad?
How did the audience learn about the events as they unfolded in River Rising?
So, River Rising is the first story.
Yes. By revealing the main character's inner thoughts.
So, is it mostly through description in the stage directions? Does the stage directions tell us how the events unfold? No. Okay, almost entirely through dialogue between the characters. It could be the right answer. By revealing the main character's inner thoughts, it could be the right answer. Through language that mimics the rhythmic sound of raindrops. Do you guys think that was it?
No.
No. Now, between B and C, did we hear the character's inner thoughts? Like, did the narrator tell us what they are thinking?
Yes.
No.
No. Very good. So what did we hear it through?
From the dialogue.
Excellent. From the dialogue. They spoke to each other, and this is how we knew. The narrator didn't say Henry was thinking this, and that. Actually, because it's a drama, it was through dialogue that we understood the story. Okay? So I want you to be cautious and careful and conscious of the way the author presents what he writes. Okay, now part B. What evidence supports the answer to part A? Yes, Tala.
It's B. Characters share news about events off stage as they appear on
Okay, let's look at the other choices as well. The italic text at the beginning of the play sets the scene. Okay, it does, but does this support the answer to part A? It doesn't. Most of the information about the flood comes from a long speech by Sam. The information of the flood came from Sam?
No.
Not, most of it did not come from Sam. It came from who? Will. So this would be incorrect. The rapid fire dialogue between Lois and Henry sounds like rain. I didn't see that. So the best here is, okay. Item 6, part A. Which of the following best summarizes a Katrina story? Oh, pardon me. When the neighbor cat sidled up to Isaac in paragraph 5, a Katrina story, how did she move? What do you guys think? Aggressively, secretively, curiously. So looking at both of these together with part A and part B, what would the best answers be that would support the answer to part A? So after reading part B, what do you decide, Tala?
It's B. Secretively.
So we would say it's secretively, and which supports it? Also, B. Stealthy means secretively, and considered also means in a cautious, secretive way. Alright, let's go to which of the following best summarizes a Katrina story. Let's go to process of elimination. A cat and dog brave the pouring rain and fight a rat. Does that summarize the story? No? A dog and cat abandoned in a flood team up to find food. Maybe? A dog prevents a rat from stealing food from a starving cat. The cat is the one that attacked the rat, right? A cat figures out how to release an abandoned dog from his leash. Is this the only? This is true, but is it most of the story? So B would be the best answer here. And now let's look at part B to support this answer. He never knew where she would turn up. About the cat. Together they made a thorough survey of the kitchen. Let's leave that. He warily rose and followed her out the door. As Isaac once again heaved himself onto the counter, the cat waited. So which one of these three do you think best supports part A, answer B? Yes.
It's B. Together they made a true survey.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, item 7, part A. What is the main conflict in a Katrina story? Isaac versus the cat next door. Isaac and the cat versus the rat. Isaac and the cat versus the flood. Isaac and the cat versus the rainstorm. Which one is the best one here for a conflict, which means the problem in Katrina? What do you think, Joel? Correct. Do you all agree?
Yes. Yes.
Which evidence from the story best illustrates the answer to part A? Is it Isaac is irritated by the cat's ability to sneak around undetected?
No.
Taking the cat on his back, Isaac paddles through flood water to find food. Isaac cannot fight the rat because he doesn't have teeth. The rain went on for a long time, preventing the cat from getting to Isaac earlier. So, to support Isaac and the cat versus the flood, which is the best answer here? Yes, Tala? B is correct. Now, if you had chosen Isaac and the cat versus the rainstorm, maybe we would have said the rain went on for a long time, preventing the cat from getting to Isaac earlier. However, this happened in the beginning of the story, so it's not the main conflict. So, both the rainstorm and the cats from getting to Isaac earlier is something that happened earlier in the story. And it's not the main conflict, however, it was a conflict. So be careful to choose the best answer because there's more than one possible answer. How does the conflict help reveal character in a Katrina story? Does it highlight the pet owner's regret?
No.
We didn't even see the pet owner here. By showing Isaac's laziness?
No.
By demonstrating the cat's ingenuity? Or by bringing out the city's rats? C is correct. Ingenuity means, you know how the cat was able to free the dog in the beginning of the story? And the cat also meowed at the dog to get up and to get something to eat. And the cat jumped on the dog's back. And how did she get across without being able to swim? She jumped on his back, right? And don't forget that she's the one that grabbed the rat so that they could take the food instead of the rat, right? So those are ingenuity. Those are examples of ingenuity of the cat. Would you believe a cat is that smart? She coaxed the dog out of bed so that the dog wouldn't die from starvation. Okay, so what text supports the answer to part A? Isaac's owner filled the bathtub with water in case the water pipes broke?
No.
The cat figures out how to release the dog and finds the sliced meat? Isaac is so tired that he just wants to rest on his comfortable bed.
No.
The rat threatens to take the meat before the pets can eat it.
Miss Isaac could be.
So you think it's
B.
B. All right. Now, remember what we said. The ingenuity is the cleverness of the cat, and the cat was able to release the dog and led the dog to find the sliced meat. Item 9. Can you go ahead and read it, Abbas?
Part A. Which of the following conclusion can you draw about floods based on evidence in both selections? Floods may occur even after the rain has stopped.
Okay. Cities are worse affected by flooding than rural areas.
People who leave their animals behind in a flood don't care about them.
Is that true? Because in both stories,
No.
the first story, all they cared about was the animals being in the higher places. Because of technology, today's floods are less destructive than those a century ago?
No.
No? Okay, now here, people who leave their animals behind in a flood don't care about them? Do they care about them?
No.
They don't?
Yes, they care about.
In the first story, did they care about their animals?
Yeah.
Yes, but then they cared about themselves more. But does that mean they didn't care about the animals at first?
They could.
They did care. Cities are worse affected by flooding than rural areas. Did it compare who was worse? No, but they did describe that both were very hard. Okay, floods may occur even after the rain has stopped.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Miss, can I tell you
because-
why?
Yes, what do you think it might be?
Because I think it's A because in the first story they said it ain't why not it ain't going to flood, it ain't even raining out.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, yes?
I think it's C because in the second story there was no owner for the dog. No, he left the dogs and the dog and disappeared. Like he wasn't even in the story.
Like he wasn't even in the story. Okay, now since we're having some dispute about the answer here, let's go ahead and read the two pieces of evidence, and maybe that will help us to find an answer for part A as well as part B. Lead the mules up to the rise in the pasture. Okay, it ain't going to flood. It ain't even raining out. That could be one of the good answers to help us with A. There's never been a safer time to live near Mississippi.
No.
During the height of the rainstorm, the water hadn't risen this high.
No.
This one would support this answer here. So D would support A as well. The street was deserted and water was up to the windows. At that moment, the pointy snout of a rat torpedoed toward them. So with these pieces of evidence, which answer is the best answer so far?
Miss, I chose B and D down A up.
You chose B and D and A above.
Yes. Because
Do you agree? Does anyone have a disputing answer? She's correct. Floods may occur even after the rain has stopped. Pieces of evidence from the river rising, it ain't going to flood, it ain't even raining out. And during the height of the rainstorm, the water hadn't risen this high. These two support this answer. The Cyclone, from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. Their house was small. For the lumber to build, it had to be carried by wagon many miles. There were 4 walls, a floor, and a roof, which made one room. And this room contained a rusty-looking cook stove, a cupboard for the dishes, a table, 3 or 4 chairs, and the beds. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner, and Dorothy a little bed in another corner. There was no garret at all, and no cellar, except a small hole dug in the ground, called a cyclone cellar, where the family could go in case One of those great whirlwinds arose, mighty enough to crush any building in its path. It was reached by a trap door in the middle of the floor, from which a ladder led down into the small dark hole. When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great gray prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached to the edge of the sky in all directions. The sun had baked the plowed land into a gray mass with little cracks running through it. Even the grass was not green, for the sun had burned the tops of the long blades until they were the same gray color to be seen everywhere. Once the house had been painted, but the sun blistered the paint and the rains washed it away, and now the house was as dull and gray as everything else. When Aunt Em came there to live, she was a young, pretty wife. The sun and wind had changed her too. They had taken the sparkle from her eyes and left them a sober gray. They had taken the red from her cheeks and lips, and they were gray also. She was thin and gaunt, and never smiled now. Uncle Henry worked hard from morning till night, and did not know what joy was. He was gray also, from his long beard to his rough boots, and he looked stern and solemn, and rarely spoke. Toto was not gray. He was a little black dog, with long silky hair and small black eyes that twinkled merrily on either side of his funny wee nose. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked anxiously at the sky, which was even grayer than usual. Dorothy stood in the door with Toto in her arms and looked at the sky too. Aunt Em was washing the dishes. From the far north they heard a low wail of the wind, and Uncle Henry and Dorothy could see where the long grass bowed in waves before the coming storm. There now came a sharp whistling in the air from the south, and as they turned their eyes that way they saw ripples in the grass coming from that direction also. Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a cyclone coming, Em," he called to his wife. "I'll go look after the stock." Then he ran toward the sheds where the cows and horses were kept. Aunt Em dropped her work and came to the door. One glance told her of the danger close at hand. "Quick, Dorothy!" she screamed. "Run for the cellar!" Toto jumped out of Dorothy's arms and hid under the bed, and the girls started to get him. Aunt Em, badly frightened, threw open the trap door in the floor and climbed down the ladder into the small dark hole. Dorothy caught Toto at last and started to follow her aunt. When she was halfway across the room, there came a great shriek from the wind, and the house shook so hard that she lost her footing and sat down suddenly upon the floor. Then a strange thing happened. The house whirled around 2 or 3 times and rose slowly through the air. Dorothy felt as she were going up in a balloon. The north and south winds met where the house stood, and made it the exact center of the cyclone. In the middle of a cyclone, the air is generally still, but the great pressure of the wind on every side of the house raised it up higher and higher until it was at the very top of the cyclone, and there it remained and was carried miles and miles away as easily as you could carry a feather. It was very dark, and the wind howled horribly around her. But Dorothy found she was riding quite easily. After the first few whirls around, and one other time when the house tripped badly, she felt as if she were being rocked gently, like a baby in a cradle. Toto did not like it. He ran about the room, now here, now there, barking loudly. But Dorothy sat quite still on the floor and waited to see what would happen. Once Toto got too near the trap-open door and fell in, and at first the little girl thought she had lost him. But soon she saw one of his ears sticking up through the hole, for the strong pressure of the air was keeping him up so that they could not fall. She crept up the hole, caught Toto by the ear, and dragged him into the room again, afterward closing the trap door so that no more accidents could happen. Hour after hour passed away, and slowly Dorothy got over her fright. But she felt quite lonely, and the wind shrieked so loudly all about her that she nearly became deaf. At first she had wondered if she would be dashed to pieces when the house fell again. But as the hours passed and nothing terrible happened, she stopped worrying and resolved to wait calmly and see what the future would bring. Okay, let's answer these questions now about the narrative. What does the word garret mean in these lines from the cyclone? Their house was small, there were 4 walls, a floor, and a roof, which made one room. And this room contained a rusty looking cook stove. There was no garret at all, and no cellar. So, similarly to having a kitchen, they had a cook stove in this one room. Above them, there was nothing. Below them, there was something called the cyclone room. So, what is the best answer in this case? A, attic, which means the room above wherever room you're in, below, and it's below the roof. The basement is under the ground. They have a cyclone room under the ground, so would it be basement? Floorboards are what you stand on. Right now we are standing on tile. Floorboards are also made of wood as well. Kitchen area. So here, out of these 3, which is the best answer? Yes. Attic is the answer that is correct. Kitchen area would be where the cook stove is, so we would say that it's not a kitchen area. And floorboards are what you stand on, so they would have had floorboards. Okay. Part B. How do word relationships from the lines in the text help you understand the meaning of garret? Let's look at the options. 4 walls, a floor, and a roof are examples of garret. The words small and one room imply the meaning of garret. Garret and cellar are probably opposites. Cook stove and garrets are probably synonyms.
Is it B? The words small and one room complete the meaning of garret?
Would it mean small room? Small room and one room. If a garret means attic, would it mean one room and small room?
Garret and cellar are probably opposites.
That's true. Garret and cellar are probably opposites, is correct. Because the cellar is under the ground, which means synonymously to basement. And if garret is the attic, that means it's a room above that one room. If they had it, they would have a room above that one room. Okay? Item 2, part A. According to the story, why is the house that Dorothy shares with her aunt and uncle so small? Are they poor? Is there no lumber nearby? Were 2-story buildings not allowed in their neighborhood? Or was the house built for a childless couple, not for 3 people, according to the story? Yes, Joel.
They are poor.
They are poor. Okay, let's choose evidence here that supports this response. Dorothy lived with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em. For the lumber to build, it had to be carried by wagon. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em had a big bed in one corner. Dorothy had a little bed in another corner. What is the best evidence here? Yes, Ala.
Dorothy lived with Uncle Henry.
Correct. Excellent. Item 3. Which of the following words best describes the prairie setting of the cyclone? Is it fertile and productive, dull and harsh, sunny and peaceful, or noisy and overcrowded? Yes.
Noisy and overcrowded.
Did they say it was noisy?
It's not because there's no
Dull and harsh. And let's look at the text evidence to support this answer. A, the house had been painted. B, a small hole dug in the ground called a cyclone cellar. C, the broad sweep of flat country that reached to the edge of the sky. Or D, the sun had baked the plowed land into a gray mass.
Is it D? The sun had.
Yes, it's D. Very good. Excellent. Item 4. Part A. How has life on a prairie homestead affected Aunt Em? She has risen to the challenge and thrived. She enjoys the constant sunshine and cool breezes. The harsh environment has been difficult for her, or she was fine until Dorothy came along. C is correct. Now let's look at the evidence to support this answer.
Their eyes are spit out loud and their body is thin and smelly loud.
Excellent, Muhammad. Very good. Okay, item 5, part A. What does the narrator mean in saying that Uncle Henry did not know what joy was? He is uneducated.
It's very hard and he has no time for any sort of enjoyment.
Very good, excellent. Part B. What evidence from the story best supports the answer to part A? Uncle Henry,
Worked hard from morning to night.
from his long beard to his rough boots. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked anxiously at the sky. There's a cyclone coming. A is correct, as Muhammad also said. Uncle Henry worked hard from morning till night. Very good. Let's look at item 6. Which of the following character traits best describe Dorothy? Fearful and solitary, willful and stubborn, sensitive and generous, or brave and level-headed? So Allah is saying it's brave and level-headed. Very good. Let's look at evidence to help us. So we're going to choose 2 of these. She does not provide good company to her aunt and uncle. Is it true?
No.
She does not follow her aunt's instructions to head to the cyclone cellar.
Yeah.
She is aware of the danger of the tornado before her aunt and uncle are? No. After rescuing Toto, she closes the trap door to prevent future accidents. She decides to wait calmly and see where the cyclone takes her.
Yeah.
Correct. So would the second support be B or D? D.
She was brave.
She rescued Toto and closes the trap door so that no future accidents would happen. But would that prove that she is brave and level-headed? We wanted to support the answer. So if she didn't follow her aunt's instructions, is she level-headed? No. She is brave and level-headed when she waits calmly and sees where the cyclone takes her. She's brave and level-headed after she rescues Toto. She closes the trap door so that he doesn't escape again. Does everyone agree? Okay. Item 7, part A. Which of the following conclusions can be drawn from the story? Aunt Em would be happier if Dorothy were not living with her. Tornadoes are a foreseeable danger of life on the prairie. Uncle Henry is less successful at farming than his neighbors. Dogs often sense dangerous weather events before humans do. I mean, yes, B is correct. Let's look at part B. Which evidence from the story supports this answer? The family has a cyclone cellar. Aunt Em used to be an attractive and vibrant woman. Toto jumps out of Dorothy's arms and hides under the bed. Or Uncle Henry works constantly. Which is the best answer for tornadoes are a foreseeable danger of life on the prairie? Exactly. Very good. Excellent. The family has a cyclone cellar. Is correct. Item 8. Which of the following shifts occur in the cyclone? The narrator shifts from the third person to the first person. The setting changes from Kansas to Oz. Uncle Henry, once young and optimistic, becomes old and tired. The realistic narrative details give way to fantasy. D is correct.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, what details support this answer? Although Aunt Em is a frail elderly woman, a younger version of her is described. Does that support D? Howling winds and a darkening sky signal that a change is about to occur. The description is realistic until the house is picked up but not destroyed by the tornado. There is no dialogue until Uncle Henry says there's a cyclone coming, M. Now, I want you to look between B and C. And remember that you are looking at something that is realistic until fantasy happens. If the house were picked up by the hurricane, wouldn't everything be destroyed? But it came down and it was still intact. No one was hurt. So, what would the best answer here be? What would it be? You said C. Why did you say C?
Because if the house was picked up by the tornado,
It didn't get destroyed.
Yes, exactly. So it's realistic until you notice that the house never got destroyed and no one got hurt. So you know something is actually fantasy. Fantasy is actually occurring and it leaves the rest to the reader. Very good. Which of the following best summarizes the story? Aunt Em and Uncle Henry take care of their niece, but they lose her in a tragic storm. Dorothy and her dog, Toto, enjoy many adventures on the prairie. Dorothy is a young girl living in a dairy farm until an extraordinary tornado whisks her away. Aunt Em loves Dorothy, but her fear of tornadoes leads to suffocating existence for the young girl. So which one of these would be the best answer? C is correct. Dorothy is a young girl that's living on a dreary farm until the extraordinary tornado takes her away. Now let's look at these two pieces of evidence to support this summary. Uncle Henry is stern and untalkative. Aunt Em is cheerless and tired. Does it support that she lives on a dairy farm?
No.
It might. From Dorothy's house, she can see nothing but gray prairie for miles in every direction. It might. Aunt Em would rather hide in a dark hole than ride out the tornado above the ground. No. Uncle Henry risks his life to save farm animals before taking shelter with Aunt Em.
No.
Toto is a small dog with sparkling eyes and silky fur. Dorothy travels for hours in the house atop the tornado, wondering where it will go. Does she? No. So these two would probably best support the summary of Dorothy is a young girl living on a dairy farm until an extraordinary tornado whisks her away. Now, what you were supposed to do for the writing was to rewrite it, changing the setting and the extreme weather event to show how a new setting and weather would affect the characters and plot. I would like someone to share.
Bad weather always looks worse through a window, and in that day there was a girl whose name Dorothy lived with her Uncle Henry and his wife Anne. He and his wife worked together in their farm. They were poor people, but their love for each other stayed in their life. While Uncle Henry was on his wagon selling the fruits, it started to snow and Henry wasn't seeing well because of the fog. Then the snow and the fog made together the blizzard. The wagon was going up and down, and then Uncle Henry fell down from his small wagon. Dorothy and her aunt were feeling worried because Uncle Henry was late, so she went with her aunt and little dog to search for him. The dog tried to smell, but it was useless because the snow closed the smell. So Dorothy noticed that there's on the snow the wagon's prints, so she followed the prints, and where the prints stopped, Uncle Henry wasn't on it. They saw on the floor his boots and glove, but they didn't find him. Then the dog started to bark because he knew that Uncle Henry was fainted under snow from the blizzard and cold weather. They pulled him and took him to their small home and gave him hot drinks to let him be okay. So we could all take a lesson from the weather, and it pays no attention to criticism.
Okay, criticism. Beautiful, excellent. Okay, go ahead, read the directions, Lua.
For each sentence, tell whether the underlined phrase is a gerund phrase, an infinitive phrase, or participle phrase, and state phrases for substitution. How do you like to play soccer every day? The phrase type is infinitive.
Correct.
Speech is noun.
Infinitive. And part of speech is a noun. Excellent. Next one. Yes, Joelle.
Gardening is one of my grandmother's favorite things to do. The phrase type is gerund and the part of speech is noun.
Beautiful. The next one. Tala.
I feel tired when I think about running up the stairs. The first step is participate.
Running up the stairs. What do you think it is? Yes.
I think it's gerund because the verb aspect is the noun and it's not an
Excellent. Excellent. Gerund. And what part of speech is it?
noun.
It's a noun. Excellent. Number 4. Yes, Lua.
The boy sitting in his seat is doing his task. It's participle
Participle phrase.
and it's adjective.
And it's describing how the boy is doing his classwork, so we are considering it as an adjective. All right, the next one, Ala.
Sailing on deep water, one for fish on the water. Participle phrase
Correct.
and a noun.
Sailing on deep waters. How was Lua looking for fish while she was sailing on deep waters? So this is describing how she was looking for fish. So we would consider it what? An adjective. Okay, very good. Now we're going to complete each sentence with the correct preposition and gerund form of the verb and parentheses. Abbas, do the first one.
Happy to visit the zoo or
Would it be correct to say Abbas is happy to visit the zoo? Is he using the gerund form of the word?
happy for visiting the zoo.
Okay, you got this one correct for visiting. Do we say is happy for? What do we say? About. Excellent. When we express feelings and we're using a gerund afterwards, you need to use the word about. So, Abbas is happy about, Abbas is excited about, Abbas is thrilled about, okay? Yes, the next one. Go ahead.
I'm afraid of drowning in deep water.
I'm afraid of. So when you see the word afraid, you should use of. Drowning. Last night I dreamt.
About playing soccer with my mom.
Here it can be either about or of. Would be both of them would be correct. Yes.
Is looking forward to eat.
Excellent. So when we see looking forward, we know we should use the preposition to. And what kind of gerund what is the gerund here? Eating. The last one, Muhammad.
I believe about
I believe
In
in what?
thank
Thinking. Correct. Enjoy your spring break, students.
you.